The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Welcome to Around Our Area, a weekly look at community newspapers from around Western New York. Your reader for this hour is Will Evans. And we'll lead off with a look at the Amherst Bee, our first article, Manny to exhibit at his last Allentown Art Festival. For a man who grew up in humble beginnings in a town 10 miles north of Albany and who moved to Buffalo after he lost all of his possessions and his artwork in a house fire, it all turned out well for Amherst artist David J.W. Manny, who will call his 40th Allentown Art Festival his last. Manny, who turned 75 in August, said, "This is my last year of shows ever." Manny had an interesting childhood where his high school, Watervillette, was near the Watervillette Arsenal, and said many times while walking to school he and his friends would hear weapons being tested underground that would startle them. He said a turning point in his life were three things that happened around the same time: his father passing away while he was in college, the loss of a job, and the home fire, in which he lost about 162 paintings and 15,000 records. My one basic friend said, "You just had a series of bad things happen to you. I am going to Buffalo in August. Come with me. Get out of here." And that's where he permanently moved to. Now, after coming off of all that other stuff, the last thing on my mind was art ever again, said Manny. I stopped painting, drawing, everything, just stopped dead. During that time, Manny worked at Forest Lawn, originally mowing lawns, but because of his knowledge of trees, wound up being an assistant arborist. On his way home from Forest Lawn, he would stop at Record Theater on Main Street and Lafayette Avenue in Buffalo and applied for a job, as he was a big music aficionado. He impressed the manager with his music knowledge and then worked there for 5 years. It was also where he met his future wife, Karen Tunis Manny, who was a law school student at the time and who worked in the classical music department. Manny received a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Buffalo State College and the University at Buffalo, cross-registering between the two institutions. He said the impetus to visit the Allentown Art Festival was his wife, who bugged me for months to attend the festival. He said he saw an artist who was displaying drawings of famous personalities. I said, "I could do that, no problem." Then his wife said, "Well, do it." Manny said he then spent the next June through January working on art pieces and then entered the Allentown Art Festival in January of 1982. And then he waited. "I got in," he said, adding at the time that with regard to a display booth, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, and constructed it of makeshift materials. He said a big influence on his painting overall was the dedication of Vincent van Gogh, with the artist even working through a storm to achieve the painting he wanted. So the short of the long of it is, I got in the art festival, and I went for 19 years. Then I took a hiatus. Manny said a portrait he brought to the Allentown Art Festival that wasn't for sale was a pencil-drawn John Lennon. It wasn't for sale because it was my brother's 30th birthday present. He said a turning point was when Carol Jason, a former anchor on WIVB Channel 4, stopped by his booth with a cameraman, aired a montage on the television news of artists at the festival. Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. People said, "We want 2 prints of that." 100 prints all gone that day on Sunday because of television. He said the Lennon piece took him about 80 hours to draw, adding that the majority of the 50 first works for the festival and the ones after that took a minimum of 125 hours each to create. Manny said he's done portraits of everyone from Bob Marley to David Bowie and Itzhak Perlman. He has had some brushes with fame, including Perlman when he performed at Kleinhans Music Hall. Manny had created a portrait of Perlman playing the violin for the Allentown Art Festival. He then got to meet Perlman and get his signature on the piece, which won 3rd place. Allentown has an average of 350,000 people in 2 days. They have over 450 fine artists. You have to register to get into the show. If you're accepted, then you have an opportunity to submit a piece. He said his entrance piece will be judged on the first day of the festival on Saturday, along with other artists. Of the 11 awards from the Allentown Art Festival, he has one Purchase Award, where the festival requests to purchase it from the artist and place it in the Allentown Art Festival Society Gallery. That piece was the oldest tree in Buffalo. Following that time, Manny realized how many treasures Buffalo had. I read a lot about Buffalo and never knew that Buffalo had so many treasures. So I decided in 1973 that one day I'd do a series of all the treasures of Buffalo. And so after 19 years of drawings, I took a hiatus. At that time, Manny created 36 Buffalo treasure prints, which are historical and architectural assets of Buffalo. He said the last piece in the collection is the Grover Cleveland Water Tower at Bailey and Winspear Avenues, adding that his most popular print is called Delaware Park, which features the statue of David. Buffalo Treasures also offers items such as tea towels, lapel pins, coasters, and more. Manny also has items for sale through local retailers. The artist said his father wanted him to be a physicist, and on his deathbed he told his dad, "Pop, I can be an artist until I die." His father replied with an emphatic, "You better." The 69th Annual Allentown Art Festival will take place from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, June 13th and 14th. Manny's display booth will be on Franklin Street, space F123, near Virginia Street. Moving on now, Rosen McGuire to enter 2026 Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. Bob Rosen and Duke McGuire's contributions to sports are immense, and both will be honored for their contributions as members of the 2026 Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. Rosen, Williamsville North's head boys hockey since the program began in 1990, is the winningest high school coach in New York State history. McGuire has been involved with the Buffalo Bison since 1979 and has been a fixture at Amherst High School for decades. Rosen and McGuire are part of a 12-member class introduced on June the 3rd at Dave and Adams Card World in Williamsville. Other members of the class include Corey Graham for football, Jim Heder, cyclist/official, Sid Jameson, lacrosse, Jake Kaminsky, archery, Helen Nikiel, softball, and Lester Rowe, basketball, Al Hutter, official, John Bennett, rowing, Gene Porter, roller derby, and Justin Strelzik, football, will be inducted posthumously. The class will officially be inducted at the annual dinner on Thursday, September 24th. The event will mark the 36th class to be inducted into the Hall of Fame since its inception in 1991 and will bring total membership to 427. Rosen was shocked when he was told of the impending award. "It's something that you knew about and is a tremendous honor and very humbling to be inducted into something like this," Rosen said. "It is pretty special." Rosen, who has also been inducted into the Amherst Hockey, Williamsville North, and Section 6 Halls of Fame, shouldn't be surprised of his induction due to how much he has accomplished. He started playing for the Junior A Buffalo Sabres and then won a national junior college championship at SUNY Canton. He went on to play and coach at Canisius College. In 1990, Rosen was named head boys hockey coach at North. He thought he would do it for a few years and has been the program's only coach, guiding the Spartans to the state final 7 times in their first 8 years of eligibility, beginning in 2001. Rosen has won a state record 579 games and won 5 state championships, 2002, 2004, 2006, 2011, and 2017. "I wanted to make it like a college program, or as close as I could," Rosen said. "I think we were successful. When we became eligible for the state playoffs and then to compete at that level was great." The 2011 team, which included his son Jake, went undefeated. North also became the first public school team to win a Federation title. Even after 36 years, Rosen still has the passion to coach. "I love going to practice," Rosen said. "It's a great feeling to see a team develop from where they were at the beginning of the season to how they do at the end of the year." Rosen has been named the state's Coach of the Year in 2006, 2011, and 2017. In 2019, he won the American Hockey Coaches Association John Mariucci Award, named after the longtime University of Minnesota coach, for a coach who best exemplifies the dedication, spirit, and enthusiasm that Mariucci brought to the sport. In Amherst youth hockey, the Junior B and Junior C hockey teams he coached won 4 national championships, including an undefeated season in Junior B in 1987-88. Rosen is also a top amateur golfer in the region, capturing multiple Buffalo District Golf Association titles and multiple senior titles. He is a 7-time BDGA Senior Player of the Year and has won 15 club championships at Westwood Country Club, as well as titles at Glen Oak and senior and match play club championships at the Country Club of Buffalo. Rosen and his wife Beth, who they have been together for 47 years, has been his biggest fan on his hockey journey. McGuire, who is in the Western New York Amateur Baseball and Buffalo Baseball Halls of Fame, said getting selected for the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall is awesome. It's a long time coming, McGuire said. A lot of buddies are in it already, and it's great to join them. McGuire joked that he has done so much that when he has to give his induction speech, he isn't sure what part of his career it will be on. McGuire was a 3-sport athlete at Amherst, earning 10 varsity letters and 7 first-team all-star selections between soccer, basketball, and baseball. McGuire played college baseball at Cornell University and was drafted 3 times and turned pro when he was selected in the first round by the Detroit Tigers in 1972. He played 3 years, including 1 year for Hall of Fame manager Jim Leyland. He was probably 28 years old at the time and smoked like a chimney, McGuire said. He was great. He would present to the person who hit the least a horseball. It was a softball with tape all around it. He made things very interesting. McGuire has been a fixture with the Buffalo Bisons since 1979. He has worn many hats: broadcast team, director of public relations and marketing, and public address announcer. He has been the Bison's broadcast color commentator since 1996. He was also Bison's youth baseball coordinator and ran the team's camps and clinics at Salem Field and at local parks. Last summer, the Bisons named their broadcast booth Duke McGuire Home Broadcast Booth. I started in the winter of 1979, and I am still there, McGuire joked. I keep showing up every year, and they haven't told me not to. McGuire had a huge hand in securing the movie The Natural in Buffalo by providing the first tour of War Memorial Stadium to the individuals scouting for a location to shoot the film. He also had an on-screen role in the movie, playing alongside Robert Redford. We had 3 working in the office at the time, and I was the low man on the totem pole and always got the crazy jobs, McGuire said. I was told to give a tour of the stadium, and they loved it and said, this is exactly what they were looking for. They said, we want to do some test shots tomorrow. Can you be there? I said, yeah, my office is right there. I was left-handed, and so was Redford. Then he said, hey, do you want to be in the movie? I said, okay. McGuire served as an assistant to the dean of students at Amherst High School for 40 years. He has also coached baseball, girls basketball, and football at Amherst and Williamsville South. He still works as an announcer, timekeeper, and supervisor at Amherst sporting events. It's fun, McGuire said. The kids that are athletes are usually good kids, so you want to encourage and support them. McGuire said his wife, Mary, has been a rock throughout his career, especially in his younger days. When I was on the road, she was like a parent without a partner, McGuire said. It wouldn't be possible without her. In addition, Stu Boyer, a 35-year broadcast veteran, was named the 2026 Dick Gallagher Award winner to honor individuals who share Gallagher's passion for Western New York high school sports, community service, and have character traits that exemplify honesty, humility, and compassion. The ECC Lady Cats softball teams from 1980 and 1981 will be honored as the 2026 Team of Distinction. The Lady Cats became the first NJCAA fast-pitch softball team to win back-to-back national championships. You are listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 15 minutes past the hour. And we'll turn now to the Clarence Bee. Our first article, Clarence Concert Association announces 68th Summer Concert Series. The Clarence Concert Association will present its 68th annual Summer Concert Series beginning in June, featuring performances by local student musicians, professional ensembles, and the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. On June 19th, the Queen City Strings, led by violinist and Clarence music teacher James Aida, will perform at 7 p.m. at Zion Lutheran Church. Weekly concerts begin June 28th at 7 p.m. at Main Street Town Park, with a performance by the Buffalo Bluegrass All-Stars. 4 concerts by the Clarence Summer Orchestra will follow under the direction of music director Nick Del Bello. The orchestra, made up of nearly 60 local professional musicians, will present a variety of themed programs throughout July. The July 5th concert, titled America at 250, will feature a salute to the Armed Forces, John Williams' Liberty Fanfare, selections from Antonin Dvorak's New World Symphony, and works by Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, and George Gershwin. The orchestra's July 12th performance, presented in collaboration with the Sotto Voce Opera Collective, will feature selections from operas including Fidelio and Carmen, as well as works by composers Carlisle Floyd and Samuel Barber. On July 19th, the orchestra will present Game On, featuring music from classical works and video game soundtracks. The orchestra's final performance of the season, Bach to the Beatles, is scheduled for July 26th and will include orchestral arrangements of songs by the Beatles, works by British composers, and a violin concerto by Johann Sebastian Bach, featuring Buffalo native violinist Tia Prokas. A fundraising dinner will precede the concert at 5 p.m. Additional performances include the Clarence Summer Band on July 16th, Shakespeare in the Park's touring production of Fools and Foes on July 21st, and a Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra concert on July 22nd, previewing its 2026-27 season. During the July 22nd performance, Clarence High School violinist Aurora Sandner will perform with the orchestra after receiving a Friends of the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra Young Musician Scholarship Award. The series concludes August 2nd with Dancing Under the Stars, featuring the Anderson Big Band. Outdoor concerts will be held at Main Street Town Park. In the event of rain, performances will move to the Clarence High School auditorium. Refreshments will be available for purchase at concerts to benefit the Clarence High School band boosters. Additional information and a complete concert schedule are available at clarenceconcert.org. John O'Hare, Historical Society of Clarence trustee, writes our next article, Faith and Perseverance in the Clarence Hollow. Across from what was once Spoor's Hotel at the corner of Main Street and Salt Road stands one of Clarence Hollow's most recognizable historic buildings. Today it serves the community as the Brick Hall, hosting weddings, celebrations, and special events. Yet for generations, the building served a different purpose. It was home to the Presbyterian congregation that helped shape the religious life of Clarence during the 19th century. The former Presbyterian Church is more than an attractive historic structure. It is one of the few surviving reminders of a time when churches stood at the center of community life in Clarence Hollow. Long before automobiles, telephones, and social media connected people, churches brought neighbors together for worship, education, charity, and fellowship. The story of religion in Clarence, however, begins even earlier than the Presbyterian Church building. It begins in the forests and scattered clearings of a frontier settlement where roads were few, homes were isolated, and organized worship was difficult to maintain. Among the earliest religious leaders to serve the area was Reverend Gleason Fillmore. Arriving in Clarence in 1807, Fillmore became one of the Methodist circuit riders who carried religion across the frontier. Fillmore traveled on horseback from settlement to settlement, preaching wherever people could gather. Services were often held in homes, barns, schoolhouses, or beneath the open sky. Distances were great, roads were poor, and settlements were widely scattered. Yet his efforts helped establish Methodism throughout Western New York and provided spiritual guidance to pioneer families struggling to build new lives in the wilderness. He became known as the father of Methodism in Western New York. As Clarence grew, Methodist worship evolved from informal gatherings into an organized congregation. By 1834, a church and parsonage were constructed in the hollow. The location placed the church near the heart of village life and reflected the growing importance of the congregation within the community. Unfortunately, disaster struck shortly after the church was dedicated. The church and a parsonage were destroyed by fire. For a frontier congregation, such a loss could have been devastating. Yet the Methodists of Clarence refused to give up. Determined to continue their mission, they rebuilt the church buildings. For many years, the replacement church served the congregation and the community. Weddings were celebrated, children were baptized, and generations of residents gathered for worship. Then tragedy struck a second time. In 1872, both the church and parsonage were once again consumed by fire. Many congregations might have viewed a second catastrophic fire as an insurmountable setback. Instead, the members responded with the same resilience that had characterized their predecessors. Once again, they rebuilt. This time, a substantial brick church and parsonage rose on the site, located at Main and Sawmill. The new structures reflected both the congregation's determination and the growing prosperity of Clarence during the late 19th century. The brick church stood as a symbol of permanence and faith, replacing the more vulnerable buildings that had come before it. The Methodist congregation continued to worship in Clarence Hollow for many years. The church remained an important institution in the lives of local families, providing not only religious services, but also opportunities for education, social gathering, and community support. In the 1970s, changing patterns of growth and development led the congregation to relocate to its present location, ending a long chapter of Methodist history in the Hollow. The church lot became a service station, and while the Methodist church buildings have disappeared from the Hollow landscape, the Presbyterian church remains. Dedicated in 1844 and located directly across from Spoor's Hotel, the building has witnessed generations of change. It has stood through the rise and decline of stagecoach travel, the arrival of railroads, the emergence of automobiles, and the transformation of Clarence from a rural farming community into one of Western New York's most desirable suburban towns. The Presbyterian congregation itself played a significant role in shaping the character of the village. Like many churches of the 19th century, it served as both a spiritual and social center. Church suppers and charitable efforts, educational programs, and community gatherings strengthened the bonds between residents and helped create a shared sense of identity. Today, visitors entering Clarence Hollow can still admire the former Presbyterian church building. It is now a town landmark. Though its purpose has changed, its presence continues to connect modern residents with the generations who came before them. The histories of the Methodist and Presbyterian churches reveal a common theme: perseverance. Methodist congregations rebuilt after repeated fires. Presbyterian worshipers constructed a building that continues to serve the community almost a century and a half later. Together, these churches helped transform a frontier settlement into a thriving village. Their stories remind us that the history of Clarence is not found only in homes, businesses, and public buildings. It is also found in the faith, dedication, and community spirit of the people who gathered in churches, supported one another through hardship, and helped build the foundations of the town we know today. The Clarence Bee is next up with a lead article entitled "Flock Camera Expansion Sparks Heated Debate as Town Board Tables Resolution." Two representatives from Flock Group, Inc. addressed the Cheektowaga Town Board on Tuesday, June 9th, presenting details about the company and its automatic license plate recognition, or ALPR, camera system. The presentation came amid growing resident concerns over Resolution 2026-342. Sponsored by Supervisor Brian Nowak and Councilmember Vernon Thompson, the resolution would authorize Cheektowaga Police Chief Brian Coons to sign the latest amendment to the town's agreement with Flock Group, Inc. The amendment calls for the addition of 2 more Flock cameras at a cost of $10,000 each, fully funded by the Gun Involved Violence Elimination, or GIVE, G-I-V-E, grant. Cheektowaga Police Chief Coons, who was also present, spoke in support of the resolution, as he did during the last meeting on Tuesday, May 26th. He then introduced Trevor Chandler, Flock's Senior Director for Public Affairs, and Carl Bach, a Flock Government Affairs Manager, who would give a short presentation on what Flock is and what Flock is not. Chandler acknowledged that there are valid concerns about mass surveillance and whether everyone is being watched or tracked. He emphasized that this is the exact opposite of what Flock does. He explained that the system is a precision policing tool. When officers have a vehicle description in incidents such as a kidnapping, murder, or stolen car, they are no longer looking for something as general as a red Ford pickup truck. Instead, they can identify the specific vehicle, which reduces the number of people who become suspects rather than treating everyone in a matching vehicle as a potential suspect. Chandler added that Flock has permanent audit logs and an alert system for irregular searches, and that federal agencies have no access to its lookup tools unless a local agency chooses to share data. Chandler also stressed that Flock does not sell customer data. It is not their business model, and they are not associated with Planeteer, a controversial software company. Bach clarified that all data captured by the cameras is 100% owned by the town. He explained that private customers who install cameras may choose to share access with local law enforcement, but they receive no privileged criminal justice information in return. Bach added that the data is automatically and permanently deleted after 30 days by default. He also stressed that there is no facial recognition technology involved. Bach also highlighted the importance of data security. He stated that Flock uses some of the highest levels of certification to ensure criminal justice information meets FBI standards. The company is CJIS compliant and adheres to the National Defense Authorization Act. He added that certifications are applied for and vetted annually, and any security incident would be reported to the relevant agencies. He noted that every search requires a 2-factor authentication and an offense type, creating a permanent, immutable audit trail. Coons said that between 2023 and 2026, while using Flock, the department recorded 571 successful interventions with stolen cars, resulting in 376 arrests, and improved capture efficiency from 25.1% to 58.7%. Coons shared several examples where Flock helped solve serious crimes, including a manslaughter case, a pawn shop robbery and shooting, a violent home invasion, a murder on Walden Avenue, and a kidnapping of a young woman from Buffalo. Councilmember Stephen Nowicki praised concerns about the Flock Transparency Portal. He noted that while Cheektowaga prohibits the use of Flock data for traffic enforcement, he observed searches by officers from other states, including Georgia and Ohio, using the town's data for traffic infractions. He questioned how the town can ensure that outside agencies granted access follow Cheektowaga's rules, since local policies only bind town officers. Chief Coons responded that traffic infractions is a broad drop-down category that includes serious offenses such as DWI and hit and run, and it shouldn't be used for violations like running a stop sign. He added that officers take additional steps to confirm the vehicle before making a stop. Nowicki replied that he has tremendous concerns with freely sharing the town's data. We can say it's transparent all day, but quite frankly, it's not, he added. While acknowledging the need to protect officers from doxing through redactions, Nowicki said the audit logs are so heavily redacted that they are not truly transparent or understandable. He argued that the town board does not have the right to give residents and visitors data to a private company without proper oversight, calling it unfair to the people of Cheektowaga. Coons replied that no data is being sold. Nowicki countered, "They're selling it to you. We're buying it from them." Coons responded that using Flock is no different from an officer sitting on Union Road with a camera photographing every passing car, something police have the right to do in public. Nowicki replied, "Sure, I just don't want it to be government-backed and paid for by the taxpayer." You are listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes past the hour. And now back to our article. Coons replied that Flock is a proven tool and taking it away would remove the department's ability to keep citizens safe. Nowicki responded that while he acknowledges the good Flock has done in solving cases, he is concerned about the potential for improper use and is not sure if the benefits outweigh the costs. Resident Sandy Prisbalak spoke against the resolution. She said she had done extensive research on ALPR cameras since the previous meeting, which had confirmed and increased her concerns. Citing dflock.org, she reported 102,520 active Flock cameras nationwide, and noted that 68 local governments had canceled their contracts, 4 of them in New York, Ithaca, Saranac Lake, Scarsdale, and Tompkins County. She said Cheektowaga currently has 29 cameras listed on the Flock Safety Transparency portal. She pointed out that Saranac Lake, which canceled its contract, still has access to Cheektowaga's data. She also referenced Electronic Frontier Foundation articles documenting Flock's use to surveil protesters and activists, warning of broader risks to First and Fourth Amendment rights, mass surveillance through proliferating data centers, and a slide toward totalitarian government. Former Councilmember Anthony Filipski spoke in favor. He acknowledged privacy concerns from his 36 years in government, but as a 30-year cop, stressed the tool's importance and the need for regulation. He shared a case where Flock helped apprehend a suspect who stabbed a friend over 24 times within 20 minutes. Don Filipski, chair of the Cheektowaga Republican Committee, also spoke in favor of Flock. As a taxpayer of the Bellevue Fire District, she described how a stolen fire truck was recovered thanks to Flock, a drone, and traditional police work, saving taxpayers $40,000 to $70,000. Resident Rachel Martinez spoke against the resolution. She read excerpts from the 2023 Flock contract, which allows the company to access, use, preserve, and/or disclose footage to law enforcement authorities, government officials, and third parties if legally required. The contract also states that Flock may store deleted footage in order to comply with certain legal obligations, and grants a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, royalty-free, fully paid license to use, reproduce, modify, and distribute the agency data as part of the aggregated data. She noted that this language sounds very different than what I just heard from our reps. She called for Flock to be eradicated or, at minimum, the strictest safeguards such as rapid deletion of non-hit data and independent audits. Another meeting attendee, Ryan, spoke against the resolution. He cited that 82 Flock contracts have been terminated across 28 states since 2021, with 39 since January. While not rejecting public safety, he expressed specific concerns about Flock's documented accountability problems and the liability the town and board would accept. He referenced Electronic Frontier Foundation testing showing a 10% Flock camera misidentification rate and at least 12 documented wrongful law enforcement encounters, including a gunpoint stop and canine attacks. He highlighted a transparency problem, noting Flock's published guidance instructs agencies to consider minimizing data in audit logs. Along with that, they are actively coaching departments on how to limit public oversight of their own surveillance data, he said. If we're told the system is audited monthly, we have to ask ourselves by whom and how often can residents see it. He mentioned a bill in the New York State Assembly, A907, that would establish statewide minimum standards for ALPR use and data sharing. He urged the board to improve data use policies, create independent oversight, hold a community forum, and restrict data sharing before approving the resolution. He reiterated the importance of giving police the tools they need while noting that public trust in Flock has been eradicated. In the end, the board voted on a motion to take Resolution 2026-342 off the table for consideration. The motion failed on a 3-2 vote. Council members Bekwowski and Thompson voted yes. Council members Elderkin, Nowicki, and Supervisor Nowak voted no. The resolution remains tabled and is expected to return at a future meeting. Council members Brian Pilarski and Tiffany Lewis were absent. And we'll turn now to the Lancaster Depew Bee, and our first article is written by Kevin Peterson, Village of Depew Mayor. Protecting Depew's parks is a community effort. For the past several weeks, I have been kicking around ideas for this month's column. In recent months, I have written about the Village Summer Concert Series, Founders Day celebration, family movie nights at Fireman's Park, National Night Out, our Fall Festival, and the many recreational opportunities available throughout our community. I have highlighted the village's investments in pickleball, tennis, roller hockey, basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, kickball, lacrosse, soccer, our fitness court, indoor floor hockey, free yoga in the park, and of course, our pools and swimming lesson programs. This month, however, I want to address a topic that may not be as enjoyable to read about, but one that deserves our attention. Like many communities across western New York and throughout the state, the village of Depew continues to experience incidents of vandalism and property damage at our parks and public facilities. A relatively small number of individuals have chosen to damage, deface, or destroy amenities that were installed for the enjoyment of everyone in our community. I want to be clear that the overwhelming majority of our young people are respectful, responsible, and take pride in their community. Unfortunately, it only takes a few individuals to cause significant damage. In many cases, parents or guardians may not even be aware that their children are involved in these activities. Whether it is graffiti on playground equipment, damage to picnic tables and gazebos, or destruction of park property, the result is the same. Village employees must spend valuable time and resources cleaning, repairing, or replacing damaged equipment. Taxpayers ultimately bear these costs. Over the past several years, the village has invested more than $2.6 million into improvements at Fireman's Park, more than $200,000 into the all-inclusive playground at West Dawson, and we are currently investing another $200,000 in a complete renovation of the St. James Street playground. Additional neighborhood parks are scheduled for improvements in the years ahead. This year marks my 8th year serving as your mayor and my 12th year as an elected official of the village. My wife and I built our home in Depew 37 years ago and raised our 2 children here. Throughout my time in public service, I have remained committed to ensuring that Depew remains a vibrant community where families can enjoy quality services, excellent recreational opportunities, and a strong sense of community. These investments are part of that commitment. As elected officials, we also have a responsibility to protect these investments and minimize liability for taxpayers. One tool available to us, is the strategic placement of security cameras in our parks and public spaces. The reality is that cameras have become a part of everyday life. They are found at traffic intersections, businesses, schools, parking lots, and on countless homes throughout our neighborhoods. Their purpose is not to invade privacy, but to deter misconduct, protect public property, and assist law enforcement when incidents occur. I understand that some residents may have concerns about the use of cameras, and I respect those viewpoints. However, I also believe that we must have an honest conversation about how we address the ongoing problem of vandalism. If you oppose the use of security cameras, I would genuinely welcome alternative solutions that can effectively protect our parks and public facilities. Simply rejecting one approach without offering another does not solve the problem. I invite residents to share their thoughts, ideas, and suggestions by emailing me. This issue is not going away, and finding solutions will require a community-wide effort. The parks, playgrounds, and facilities we enjoy belong to all of us. Protecting them should be a responsibility we all share. Moving on to our next article now. Let's talk about term limits. And this one is written by Robert Leary, Town of Lancaster Supervisor. The subject of term limits for elected officials in Lancaster came up unexpectedly at a Lancaster Town Board meeting about a month ago. Since it was introduced, I am happy to share my thoughts on term limits and my plans. My political involvement in Lancaster began after I retired from a 26-year career in federal law enforcement and while I was working in local banking in anti-money laundering groups. Being new to politics, one of the many topics that came up was term limits for elected officials, and I took it to heart. I never, and still do not, like what I see on the federal level, where some congressmen and senators get elected and spend decades in office and go from middle-class backgrounds to very wealthy millionaires based on their connections. Although local politics doesn't have access to the same money you see in the federal system, it still doesn't seem right in our local system to see someone have a couple of terms in office. You should, if elected, step in and immediately start to improve the lives of the residents without draining their pocketbooks. Set your goals and accomplish what you can while in office, and then step away after a few terms and let somebody else step in. You must always leave the local government in better shape than when you got into office. The bottom line is that I am all for term limits, while I also plan to run one more time next year. And if I'm elected, I will be happy to serve our great community for a second term. Although I believe in term limits, I must question as to what the current push for term limits is trying to accomplish, and why there are term limits for some jobs, but not all for elected officials. If you believe in term limits, then it should be enforced across the board. The reality is that companies are better suited for determining if a person should keep their jobs based on education, experience, and performance. If you are pushing term limits down the throats of all, it should be by state law judges who are not beholden to term limits set by local law, but that should be amended, in my opinion, to allow for term limits set by municipalities as well. I have heard that the real motivation in pushing for term limits is to gain an advantage at the ballot box because some feel their party would benefit. It is completely inappropriate to create a governmental process for political purposes. Even though it is inappropriate, I wanted to do a little research on election numbers between towns with term limits and our town of Lancaster. Therefore, I contacted the Erie County Board of Elections, who ran election numbers which showed that Lancaster's turnout of voters was not much different than towns with term limits. Sometimes the Lancaster percentage of voters was higher, and sometimes it was less than towns with term limits. Voter turnout seems to be determined more by what positions are up for election than by term limits. In addition, it was framed initially that the motivation for the person bringing up term limits was to stop one-party rule. When questioned about one-party rule and term limits, it was downplayed, and that reason was walked back, even though the statement was made at a town board meeting. So, what is the real reason it has come up now, And why wasn't it discussed with the town board before being introduced? There are many questions regarding term limits, such as, if we do move forward with term limits, when do the term limits begin? Is the plan to just set an arbitrary date like January 2027 or 2028? What about those people who have already served 2 terms or are in their 2nd term? The good news is that there will be at least 2 public hearings on term limits to discuss some of the details about what will be in and what will be out, giving voters a chance to speak. You are listening to Around Our Area on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 45 minutes past the hour. Our final newspaper to look at today is the Kenton Bee. Our first article from the Kenton Bee is written by John Flynn, supervisor of Town of Tonawanda. With a note of gratitude, allow me to reintroduce myself. On Monday, May 18th, I had the high privilege of taking the oath of office as Town of Tonawanda supervisor, administered by Town Justice J. Patrick Lennon. I am succeeding Joseph Eminger, who stepped down earlier this month. As I recited the words that placed me in office, with my daughter Kelsey holding a family Bible and my wife Deborah looking on, I felt grateful for the opportunity to continue a career dedicated to my country and to public service. When I left the U.S. Navy in 2001, Deborah and I moved into the town of Tonawanda. All 5 of our children went through the Kenton school system. They are all graduates of Kenmore East High School, and they have all graduated from college. I can never repay the town of Tonawanda for what you have done for me and my family. But every day I am in the office as town supervisor, I will work to repay you and the town for what you have done for us. I say thank you. As you may know, this is not my first go-round in Town of Tonawanda government. I have served on the town board, as town justice, and as town attorney. I had the honor of serving nearly 2 terms as Erie County District Attorney, prosecuting virtually every crime committed in the county. My budgeting experience will come in handy as I serve as the town's Chief Financial Officer. As DA, I managed a $30 million budget leading a team of over 200 attorneys and support staff. I also served as president of the District Attorneys Association of the State of New York, president of the National District Attorneys Association, and I am a lifetime member of the Council on Criminal Justice. After leaving public service, I joined the Buffalo law firm Lippis Mathias in its lobbying and public policy and municipal law practice teams. I remain with the firm as senior counsel. During my time in the Navy, I deployed to the Western Pacific and served during the Gulf War. I was a Navy attorney in Pensacola Naval Air Station in Florida, with other assignments including the Pentagon and the U.S. Naval Academy. I retired as a commander. As supervisor of the town of Tonawanda, my top priorities will be public safety and waterfront development. This town deserves the best police force and the best public safety in Western New York. The town is a great place to live, work, and play because of our police department, along with every other town department. But public safety is obviously going to be first and foremost on my mind. We have a beautiful waterfront on the Niagara River. If you look at it from a regional standpoint, you have pockets on the waterfront from the city of Buffalo to the town of Tonawanda to the city of North Tonawanda and the city of Tonawanda. Our town is right in the middle, which is mainly an industrial area. We are now looking at ideas to develop the waterfront to make the town even more attractive to residents and potential businesses. I am grateful to my town board colleagues for entrusting me with the appointment to my wife and family and to the citizens of the town of Tonawanda. I am here to serve. As I begin a new chapter in my public service journey, I have hit the ground running. I am focusing on town government every day, how to improve our already high-quality services, and how to respond to the needs of our constituents, and, of course, to the needs of to make Tonawanda a great place to live, work, and play. Now, let's get to work. Village of Kenmore Mayor Patrick Mang writes the second article, Kenmore Days moves to a more family-friendly format. Summer has arrived in Kenmore, as evidenced by the return of the public piano to the gazebo. Many thanks to Larry Ginnanane Funeral Home for sponsoring the public piano again this year. Kenmore Days will take place June 26th and 27th at Mang Park. This year's two-day event has been completely reimagined and is designed to promote family fun, especially for younger children. Like many communities in Western New York, last year's community events were marred by unsupervised teens creating issues. The village decided to make sure that Kenmore Days remained a fun-filled family tradition for our residents and redesigned the event. To start with, all children and teens must be accompanied by an adult to enter the event. Another change is that the rides will only be open from noon to 7 p.m. The new event will feature kiddie rides, inflatables, and a petting zoo. Both days will also include truck time, a chance for kids to see village trucks and equipment up close. DPW, police, and fire equipment will be on Wilbur in front of the community center between 3 to 6 p.m. each day. Jeff the Animal Guy from Nickel City Reptiles and Exotics will also have a show both days at 4:30 p.m. Of course, there will be lots of food available for purchase, and face painter extraordinaire Sheila Ray will be on site for both days. Bracelets are available for unlimited rides from noon to 7 p.m., both days for $20 each. Bracelets are only valid on the day of purchase. Remember that most events are weather contingent. Any changes or updates will be on the village website. Kenmore Days also includes live entertainment at the show Mobile for kids of all ages. On Friday, June the 26th, Reset the Vinyl will perform from 7 to 10 p.m. And on Saturday, June 27th, Boomerang will perform from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m., followed by the Kensingtons from 7 to 10 p.m. The beer tent will be opened both days from 7 to 10 p.m., with tips benefiting the Kenton Rotary and the Kenton Chamber of Commerce. You can see the full Kenmore Days schedule on the village website, kenmoreny.gov. under community/events/Kenmore Days. Unfortunately, we are no longer able to have fireworks. I know this is a big disappointment. The fireworks had been a highlight of Kenmore Days for 25 years, thanks to the generosity of Paddock Chevrolet. We hope Kenmore Days, in its new family-friendly format, will bring lots of happy memories of summer in Kenmore. In addition to Kenmore Days, there are other community events to enjoy this June. The Kenmore Farmers Market opens on Sunday, June 21st on the Village Green. The market will be open every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. through the end of October. Discover Kenmore will take place on June 20th between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. This event is sponsored by the Kenmore Business Association and will take place around the Municipal Green. The Kenmore Porch Fest will take place on June 28th. 140 bands will perform at 61 locations throughout the village between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., thanks to the efforts of Eric Nagel. Enjoy all of the great community events this month, and I hope the summer weather will give you lots of opportunities to explore our beautiful, walkable village. Moving on now. History unveiled at the Erie Canal Way Trail. The year was 1776, when America went to war with Great Britain to fight for its independence. The victory, however, wouldn't have been possible without the help of Marquis de Lafayette, a French general that came to America to help fight in the American Revolution. The city of Tonawanda honored Lafayette with a plaque on the Erie Canal Way Trail on Saturday, June 6th, courtesy of the Pomeroy Foundation and the Lafayette Trail, Inc. We want people to see these markers and Google the Lafayette Trail to find the resources that we have. We hope to pique people's interest with the history of their city, said Julian Escher, founder and president of the Lafayette Trail, Inc. Lafayette was a lead commander and helped to secure French support for the American cause. He was an abolitionist and an advocate for women's rights. He fought for women to have autonomy over their right to get divorced and the right for women to be published as intellectual writers. He was well respected by the citizens of America as they considered him a hero of the Revolution and a prominent figure that led America to its independence. After the Revolution, Lafayette returned home, but was invited back to America for its golden anniversary in 1824 to tour the country. One of the many cities he stopped at was Buffalo. During his time in Buffalo, he traveled to Tonawanda, where he boarded the Seneca Chief, a canal boat that took him to see Niagara Falls. Lafayette viewed the Erie Canal as a tool for economic and national freedom that honored America's fight for independence. He believed that the canal was a vessel for American prosperity and economic freedom from Britain, as it would accelerate the Industrial Revolution in America. I was looking through hundreds of old newspapers, and there was mention of Lafayette being in Tonawanda, so we reached out to the mayor's office to see if we could find a spot to mark Lafayette's trail. They found a lovely spot, and it's perfect because Lafayette traveled on the canal, so it ties in perfectly with the history, said Asher. The plaque details Lafayette's time in Tonawanda, with the colors of the plaque being the national colors of both France and America. This plaque is the 209th marker in the Lafayette Trails series. We're trying to make Tonawanda a destination and make people realize all the things we have to offer. So this plaque is just another landmark that will draw people in. We're really grateful for the Lafayette Trail for making this possible, said Mayor William Strasburg. You've been listening to Around Our Area, a weekly look at community newspapers from around Western New York. Stay tuned for our second hour. Your reader for this hour has been Will Evans. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Southtowns papers, including Orchard Park, Hamburg, East Aurora, and West Seneca's B papers or Sons. At 3 o'clock, we have the Ample Eagle, and at 4 o'clock, we have the Grand Island Niagara County Tribune Sentinel. Stay tuned for these readings and more throughout the day, and contact us if you have comments, suggestions, or questions. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Volunteer radio readers broadcast daily readings, 24 hours a day, of newspapers, magazines, books, and other printed matter to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service has broadcast almost 40 years of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading Studios are at 1199 Harlem Road in Cheektowaga. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,